I put up an interesting post a few days ago, and that post was just a reminder to myself on something that I would wish to speak on, which is how PC strategically became this new fighting ground for the platform providers, Xbox and PlayStation. Nintendo right now is in a very interesting place. And I'm going to go ahead and actually highlight their position because I'd love for everybody to see it. And if these reports are actually true about how they're handling their Nintendo Switch 2 development kits, then I smell blood in the water. And I told y'all this. I said, when Nintendo starts to face the exact same market pressures that PlayStation and Xbox have actually had to undergo for years, you're going to see them act differently. And they're going to give you indicators that they're acting differently. Xstasis, rumors, and some gaming industry stuff says this: Digital Foundry and Nate the Hate confirm that the lack of third-party support for Nintendo Switch 2 is due to many studios still being unable to obtain development kits for Switch 2. There are even unusual exclusions for some major AAA developers. This is not surprising. The weirdest thing of all is that Nintendo is telling them that their game should be released on Switch 1 and rely on backward compatibility. This is Nintendo gatekeeping the inevitable force that's going to pretty much push it to the exact same place: the third-party barrage. I'm telling you, these developers, they can squeeze any game into anything if they are truly motivated to do it. And right now, Nintendo understands that and wants to basically establish its own brand on its new console before it lets them in. Because they know that if they let them in now at the onset, they will be overrun. That's for sure. You can't fight against the flood. This is why when Matt Piscatella posts the sales, right, of the top games by publisher, each time you'll notice that third-party publishers are eating. They're eating the lunch of PlayStation and Xbox at almost every given turn. Why? Just by sheer numbers. That's all. These companies are multi-billion-dollar companies. They have similar resources akin to what Nintendo can provide in video games. Can you imagine, all of these, platformers that you're seeing right now? Is this Shinobi game on the Nintendo Switch 2? Shinobi, let me go ahead and... Art of Vengeance. Yeah, on the Nintendo Switch 2, this is a Sega game. Sega publishing game. So Sega's probably got the inroads, right? Apparently they're cool with Nintendo, but the developer is Lizard Cube, right? Imagine if all of these companies start to exert this kind of effort into bringing these games onto Nintendo's platform. Dude, it's over. So right now, Nintendo knows that it needs to be strategic in order to maintain its dominance on its platform. But here's what's going to also happen. The generation of gamers that are coming aren't concerned whether they're playing on Nintendo or whatnot. So this whole, notion is going to be very interesting at the end, right? This right here is going to be the most critical part of the entire conversation, which is how these companies are going to navigate, how all of them are pretty much going to deal with what the barrage is actually coming. So now we're here again, and with PC, Xbox and PlayStation have, they'll say succumbed, but they knew that there was only a limited number of gamers that would buy their games on their console because they could see the numbers. It's like they hit a ceiling where they could not break through. And so they decided they were going to go to what they thought was an agnostic platform that would be of very minimal consequence. So almost 10 years ago, Xbox made the dive. And then 5 years ago, PlayStation went in as well with them. Now, what's even crazy is The second phase was now these games being available to the other parties. And so now Xbox is adopting PC and is now pretty much going to subvert all of PlayStation's efforts to keep games away from them. And it's not just the first party games. Look at the third party titles as well too. So PC being a strategic piece for them, right, has now pretty much become a thorn in the side of PlayStation in a sense. In a sense. But PlayStation understands that its own user base and its core audience and its popularity is going to help it to continue to sell hardware and maintain its concurrent ecosystem, right, in terms of MAUs and stuff. But if they're to grow any further than that, they really have to expand. Nintendo right now understands this whole premise that this is going to be their inevitable future, right? This is where it's going to go. Because once they finally start allowing these companies come in, these companies are going to be making money on their platforms as well. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be getting platform fees and their own cuts and all that stuff. But what this would do is this would affect their first party games. It always does. It's just competition. It simply is. Imagine a Power World-like game. That's why they started suing. When you see a company suing like this, you know that their business is actually threatened. You know that they have very low tolerance to shifts that could actually disrupt their market's, stranglehold. You know that, right? That's why they engage in lawfare. It's all they're doing. Power World sold, according to reports, 20 plus million units. That's crazy. That is nuts. Imagine a game like that on a Nintendo Switch to compete with the, Pokemon, titles that they have there too. You can imagine, ladies and gentlemen, how this whole gaming industry has already transformed in real time. In real time. What we're seeing right now, it all looked like everything. It's like looking at a star, right? And then observing this star and then finding out, one night you're looking at it and you see the star explode. What you don't know is the star already exploded a long time ago. You're just getting the information that was light years away from you. The gaming industry has changed so much. A lot of people are still waiting to observe the explosion of the star, not realizing that that information is still traveling to them. And so Nintendo is very aware that since they launched the Switch in 2017, there are more hungry devs ready to go. There are more companies, more investors, more dollars spent on game development that really does have, people who are ready to launch games that will compete with Nintendo on their own platform. Look at 2000. Let's just say, okay, let's do this. Let's just say these Steam developers, people who develop and publish their games on Steam, right? Oh, this is a new metric. I've never seen this before. Ooh, nice. Look at what's happened from 2017 all the way through now. All of the games in 2017 on Steam were 6,932. So far, we're at 12,508. Imagine, say, a small fraction of these developers are just waiting for a Switch 2 port. And they have games that are nice, too. Some people don't necessarily know that there are a lot of nice games, on Steam here. Nice racing games. When you put in, have I showed you all this before? When you put in racing, there's so many racing games on Steam. It's scary. Can you look at this? Mario Kart has, it does have the nostalgia. But I remember when my kids were like, Dad, we'd like to play Mario Kart. I was like, how much is it? When they told me, I was like, you know me, I'm not a Nintendo person. I'm like, I'm not paying that for it. So I bought him the Nickelodeon Racing, and I was like, all right, this racing game kind of stinks. It's not as good as Mario Kart. So I kind of caved and got a Mario Kart. But man, look at racing and look at how many were now it's putting a whole bunch of other games in here. But man, you know what I mean? Should these developers eventually start throwing their games on there, it's only a matter of time that the brand is going to basically be seeing people compete, basically see people go ahead and realize like, yo, you mean to tell me I can just buy this game for this amount of money? And it's downhill from there. And then add the Fortnites and add the other games that are going to pretty much bring their live service selves to their platforms. Remember, Mortal Kombat is on the Nintendo. Mortal Kombat 1 was launched on the Nintendo Switch 1. A game that wasn't launched on the PS4. Cyberpunk 2077 is on the Switch 2. Do you know how many other games of such caliber can make their way to that platform? Nintendo is they're next. Thanks for watching. Peace out.